to you. It's Jeff and Vicki. Good morning, Vicki.
Good morning.
We got a great guest in studio from the North Mason School District, Superintendent Dana Rosenbach. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's nice to see you.
Good to see you guys this morning.
Always nice to check in on the North Mason School District and see how those Bulldogs are doing up there in the high school. And my gosh, for folks who have kind of been by the school over the last couple years, they have seen a massive transformation. It's a top-notch school and school district in the north part of Mason County. How is everything going with all that stuff?
We are finishing up all of our secondary improvements with improvements to the stadium is the last piece that is going on. Those hope to be finished this spring. And then we are eking out of our budget enough dollars to replace and build a new modern softball facility.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so we're very, very excited about that. That will make our softball facilities equitable with our other sports facilities, and we want to keep an eye on that and make sure all of our students have the same kind of level of opportunities. So we're really excited that we're going to be able to get that done. And this fall we're excited. Our volleyball team is on their way to the playoffs, and we have 3 runners going to state this weekend in cross country.
Cool. I played volleyball in high school. That's
wonderful.
Fun.
We see and hear a lot of reports on the kind of the move out of Seattle and how it's moving south and then moving across the waters and coming down into our neck of the woods into Bremerton, South, Belfair, and that just only will increase the number of students that you'll see come through your doors.
Yes, we're seeing a very large rate of growth. We are averaging over 70 new students beyond the previous year, and over each of the last 4 or 5 years, which when you're only about 2,000 students starts to add up really high.
Oh, yeah.
So
that's about, what, 3 classrooms-ish? 25 kids a
70
classroom?
kids is at 2 to 3 classrooms, depending on the grade levels. So it's a lot of growth. And in addition, the state, put it off for a couple years, but starting next year in elementary schools, we are all going to be held to maximum size rather than average class size. And for high poverty districts like ourselves in kindergarten through 3rd grade, that maximum will be 17 to 1.
Wow.
We're currently averaging 17 to 1.
Oh, good.
And when we do the average, you get to include the PE teacher and our science specialist and the different specialists that work with the kids. But unless there are changes in the legislature this winter, that number will become a max, which totally changes the number of available spaces you have. So put that together with our growth, and we're busting at the seams.
For sure already. My goodness. So what are the, I mean, obviously that allows for a little more one-on-one interaction with the students, but why would it be that considering our rural districts and things like that, why is 17 the number?
It was a number they picked. There isn't really research that says any number is better than another. There has been a huge political move in the last decade, maybe even before, to lower class sizes, with the thinking that the lower the class size, the more attention students get, the better they will do.
Okay.
But the research shows that unless you change what you're doing when you lower the class sizes, it really doesn't have that kind of an impact. So we are also spending a lot of time looking at our programming, what's happening for each kid in the classroom every day, and adjusting that to better meet student needs. So in the last year and a half, we began last fall, so in the last year, we have begun looking at all of those things and what is the experience of the student in the classroom, particularly looking at elementary, middle school. We have a lot of other great things I can talk about high school, but particularly we've been looking at that experience because we're noticing, as districts are across this region, the county, the state, that kids are coming to school with a lot more baggage.
Sure.
They're coming to school often less prepared to be part of a group, so that discipline behaviors are extreme more often than they ever have been. And our staff aren't necessarily prepared to deal with kiddos who show up in kindergarten and if you ask them to sit down, explode and start throwing things around the room.
Right.
So we've been looking at how do we solve those problems. And we've taken a look at all the things that we've done, and we've got great things happening in all of our classrooms in different ways, but we've asked a lot of new things of teachers. So we looked at all of those initiatives and how do we braid them together to be more cohesive and to not be asking so much so that it's frustrating to know what you should be focusing on, and to be able to really focus on the kids. So we put that all together into what we're calling whole child, whole school, whole community. Because as we know in Belfair and Allen and North Mason, our community is a very integral part of our schools, and we don't do things without them, and they support us so much that engaging them and being a part of that solution is really important. So that work we've been doing, we added specific staff to support the rest of the staff in getting some of that work done. So central to that is building an effective multi-tiered systems of support for kids. So that addresses social emotional learning, it addresses behavior issues, and of course it addresses academics. And we look at what do we do for all and make sure we do that really well first. And that's the first tier, and then the multiple tiers. The second tier is, okay, so when kids need a little bit more help, what interventions do we have in place and what supports do we have? And finally, the third tier is when they need a lot of help, how do we, where do we put people or facilities or things or opportunities together to help them? And that can be on both ends of the spectrum. Are they just blowing out, you know, behavior wise, or are they kids who are gifted and they need pushed more in other ways? And are we making sure we're providing all of those opportunities? And so to do that, we moved some people around. We put an administrator specifically in place of guiding that work, and we have an outstanding person there in Beth Bork, and she is working so well with all of the teachers and classified staff and administrators to really make that happen. And then we added a behavior specialist, a teacher on special assignment, to particularly we have academic instructional coaches that go in and help our teachers, that look at what's going on in the classroom and give ideas and support and, you know, demonstrate, and they can then build on that. Well, we needed to do that with behavior too. So we hired a behavior coach to support the teachers, and then we're putting some additional staff in place that she can triage and put in, okay, there's a really big problem with a certain set of kids in this classroom right now, so we're going to give you a little extra help and the training on how to do that, and then when we get things fixed, we can pull that out and deploy it elsewhere.
Great.
Yeah.
You know, because teachers do have to be like psychologists.
They gotta be everything.
You know, I mean everything, and they get paid so little. You know, I'm so against that. So, but, you know, it just like police officers and such, you know.
They have a lot of responsibilities.
You know, behavior counselors and,
Do you have any numbers or an idea of the sense of when kids move into the kindergarten the first time they get to an elementary school, how many of the kids that come into this school district have some sort of preschool or pre-kindergarten education?
Yeah, unfortunately I do. In our district, less than 25% of our students have had preschool experience.
Do you think that is what kind of leads to the emotional behavioral issues? They haven't worked through those?
Well, sometimes that helps because, you know, going to preschool, you have a school experience. You learn how to share. You learn how to sit at the lunch table with other kids. You learn how to walk in line. You learn some of the things.
Raise your hand
exactly.
Instead of speaking out.
So that's part of why we are partnering with our ESD, which we have done for years. They've provided Head Start and ECAP programs, and they're continuing to do that. And that's not actually our ESD. That's the ESD 113 that serves the rest of Mason County, because we're in the region with Olympic for whatever reasons. But the ESD 113 provides our preschool support for more typically developing kids, but those for qualify for Head Start and ECAP. And we provide developmental preschool for kids that we already have identified as having developmental challenges. And in the past, those have been separate. And the kids, it has been a struggle in both cases to make sure that kids get integration with more typically developing peers in that preschool experience. So that's why we took the Feller building and turned it into a preschool center, so that we could put those programs together there and kids could interact with each other. And then now we are adding into that partnership work with ESD 114, the one to which we belong. They are looking for a home for a preschool setting for kids with hearing hard of hearing or
Oh.
deaf kids. And so we're adding that into that preschool community as well. We're very excited about that. And then the goal would be ultimately to add on additional classroom space for typically developing kids we could look at fee paying on a sliding scale based on the dollars that families have available to them, and not to replace the services offered by the daycare preschools currently in the community, but we don't have very many.
Oh,
And they have really big waiting lists, and so we want to support that work and actually partner with them. One of the things that we've seen really well in some districts around the state are when the district can partner with the other preschool providers and daycare providers and say, okay, these are the things that we're going to be addressing in kindergarten or first grade or whatever, and here's some curriculum, and would you like to join our teachers when we do the training so that you can use those same materials with kids, and we can be working together to prep them for school. So ultimately, that's our goal.
That's awesome.
Superintendent for the North Mason School District, Dana Rosenbach. Sounds like things are growing and moving, and we will keep our eyes on it. Thank you so much. Good to see you.
Good to see you.